Have you ever noticed how the scariest stories aren't about monsters or ghosts, but about the slow realization that something in your everyday life isn't quite what it seems?
That's such an interesting point about this story of Arthur and his mysterious house guest. The way it transforms something as ordinary as having someone stay over into psychological horror.
You know what's fascinating about the opening? Those dust motes in the moonlight. Such a peaceful image that somehow feels deeply wrong, like when you walk into your house and something's been moved just slightly.
The build-up is so methodical too, starting with those misplaced items. An umbrella here, a scarf there. It's like watching someone slowly realize they're not alone in their own home.
And then we have Cheryl, who appears with this perfectly reasonable explanation. A friend of a friend. It's brilliant how the author plays on our social conditioning to be polite, to not question things too deeply.
The description of her watching TV is what really creates that uncanny valley effect. The way she sits there, completely still, absorbing everything but reacting to nothing.
That image of her skin being almost translucent, the way it seems to absorb and radiate light. It reminds me of those deep sea creatures that have evolved to be nearly transparent. There's something fundamentally inhuman about it.
And when she finally speaks to Arthur, that mechanical head turn and that chilling line about comfort being irrelevant. It's like watching something trying to pass as human, but getting the details wrong.
You know what's interesting? Studies have shown that humans can detect artificial movement in other humans within milliseconds. It's called the uncanny valley effect, and it's why slightly imperfect robots or CGI characters can be so disturbing to us.
That really explains why Cheryl's presence is so unsettling. The way she moves, speaks, and observes, it's all just slightly off from normal human behavior.
And let's talk about that journal Arthur finds. Those complex equations and diagrams. It completely transforms the story from psychological horror into something more science fiction, but without ever explicitly telling us what Cheryl is.
That final entry, though, Phase 1, complete. Subject identified. It forces us to recontextualize everything we've read. Every interaction becomes part of some larger experiment.
You know, this story really taps into our modern anxieties about surveillance. Think about it. We've invited countless devices into our homes that watch and listen to us. Smart TVs, security cameras, virtual assistants. We're all living with our own versions of Cheryl.
That's a fascinating parallel. Studies show the average American household has 11 connected devices, all potentially collecting data about our behaviors and habits.
And just like Arthur, we've become desensitized to being observed. We override our natural instincts about privacy because it's convenient, because it's normal, because everyone else is doing it.
The story really captures that human tendency to normalize the abnormal, doesn't it? The way Arthur tries to maintain polite conversation even when he knows something is terribly wrong.
It's like that psychological concept of cognitive dissonance. When we encounter something that challenges our understanding of reality, we often try to rationalize it rather than face the uncomfortable truth.
So what do you think this story suggests about our relationship with technology and privacy in the modern world?
Well, I think it's warning us about how easily we can be manipulated through our own social conventions and desire for normalcy. We're so afraid of being rude or paranoid that we ignore red flags even when they're right in front of us.
And in the end, that's what makes this story so effective. It's not just about some mysterious entity studying humans. It's about how vulnerable we make ourselves through our own politeness and social conditioning.
You know, this reminds me of a recent study about privacy concerns. Only 25% of people read terms of service agreements before accepting them. We're literally inviting unknown entities to observe us without even questioning what they're looking for.
That's exactly like Arthur. He invited Cheryl in without really questioning her story, and by the time he realized something was wrong, it was too late.
The real horror of this story isn't just about being watched. It's about the realization that we've become willing participants in our own observation. We've normalized it to the point where we barely notice anymore.
Well, this story might make us all look a little differently at our house guests, and maybe our smart devices too.
And maybe that's the point, to make us question what we've accepted as normal. Because sometimes the scariest things aren't the obvious monsters, but the quiet observers we've invited into our lives without even realizing it.